We hear a lot about networking from industry professionals and professors in the program, but what is your advice? What's the student point of view of networking here? So Hope, let's start with you.
So networking has been probably the key to everything that I've experienced in terms of the sport management program at the beginning of my internship. At the beginning of my undergrad, it's the reason that I got my job with the Ticats. It's the reason that I actually got my internship through the connections that I'd made with the mentorship program. And then through my internship, I've worked on trying to network with as many people as possible at the COC, just because they have so many different experiences and life paths to get to where they had been, and knowledge that networking has provided me, not only just the connections but also the information. Like, there's no negatives to networking, and the worst thing somebody can say is no, and then you're just right back to where you started. So don't be afraid to reach out, even if you think it's like a shot in the dark. You never know, and ultimately people want to tell you about their experiences and share it with you. For the most part, you'll hear that they're quite interesting and not as straightforward as you would think they have been. So it's definitely cool to hear that, and a little bit helpful for someone who has their end goal in mind but don't necessarily know how to get there. It's not always a straight path. My advice for networking would be just to reach out. You may think it's crazy, but people may surprise you, and it's really cool to make those connections.
Alan Kim?
I know for all of us, professors really harped on going out and networking with people. Yeah, networking is vitally important. The way I see it, Hope really kind of summed it up really well, but I'll kind of talk from my experience. First year, specifically, if I look back, with the World Cup of Hockey, my supervisor at the time was Ryan McMorrow, who I continued to network with, kind of connect with all 4 years. And now he's kind of with the Blue Jays and through their ticket side. And, he and I kind of talk all the time, whether it's about baseball or whether it's about school. Sometimes I kind of lean on him for advice whenever I need it, depending on what's going on during the program and, what direction I should take when it comes to trying to figure out what classes I should take. In my first year, I actually did go to a primetime networking event and got to meet a lot of great people. Through my kind of internship with a sport, it's basically a hockey tournament company. They focus on presenting girls hockey tournaments. So some big tournaments we have is down in Pittsburgh, one in Mississauga. We have a couple in Peterborough. It was a great opportunity to kind of meet other people, and that's where I kind of had the opportunity to meet some people at room roster. Someone I kind of really lean on is Brian Abell, who's part of the company. Going off of that, kind of this year as well, I had the opportunity to get an internship with Primetime through their communications aspect or department. Got to network with a lot of people there at the events. It was a great time, great opportunity with the mentorship program with students and with industry professionals, and kind of with BSBA's networking events as well. I had tons of opportunity to network with people, and as kind of Hope said, you may talk to them for a couple minutes at the events, but you could take the shot and reach out, even if you feel like nothing's going to come of it. You never know, right? It could end up being a meeting. You could just go out for a coffee and just talk about kind of life and experiences through sport, and you just never know. Networking has been vital throughout my 4 years and kind of helped me along with what I've learned and who I am today. And you never know when that network can kind of be kind of a benefit to you, depending on whatever avenue you take in the industry.
People at Brock kind of know me as someone who has always promoted networking and been an advocate for going to networking events. And obviously with the club that I've been running with Alan, Caleb, and a handful of other students, we've been holding these networking events, trying to get it to be more of a thing and like more of a presence of these events on campus. So I've always really been a big advocate of networking. In terms of advice that I have for people, one thing I would say is you really need to maintain the relationships with people in your network. And that's because, like Alan said, you never know really where a connection with someone in the industry can get you. In our second year, someone named Darren Arnold, who I'm sure most people listening to this podcast are familiar with, just from all the events he's been at with Brock, came and spoke at our event. From there, he held a Hamilton Bulldogs networking event. So our relationship started at our event, and then I went to his event, and I met a handful of other people. I met someone named Kyle Ferguson, who is the manager of corporate partnerships for the CHL. From there, I kind of kept bumping into him at all these different places, and then I saw him again at Primetime. He's someone who goes to Primetime every single year, so I see him there every year. And kind of just stay in contact with Kyle through Darren, through our event that we put on. And from staying in contact with Kyle, he was able to be a reference for me for a job and / internship that I applied for last year. Because of that, I was like one of 3 people that they interviewed for the internship. It wasn't something that I ended up taking, just because it didn't really suit my interests as much as the other ones did, or the other opportunities did at the time. But that just kind of shows you how far it can really go. It starts with knowing Darren multiple years ago, to knowing someone else through Darren, through an event he put on. And then that led to an interview that I had 6 months ago, or whatever it would have been. It shows you how really far it goes and how important it is to maintain these relationships. And I still talk to Kyle all the time. I still talk to Darren somewhat regularly. So I just think it's important really to maintain those connections. And the other big piece of advice that I have, something that I don't think a lot of students really recognize as of yet, is the people around you in your program and the people your age going through these classes with you are people in your network. And you never really know where everyone around you is going to end up. I think it's important that we treat all of our friends as people in our own network. Right? I have a friend named Kat, who is a year older than us, who now works for MLSE, and I see her all the time at Budweiser stage, and I'm working there. And again, just goes to show, you never really know where the people are going to end up around you in your program. I have a friend named Matt, who was the president of the Ryerson Club for a couple of years. Became friends with him, stayed connected with him, and now he has a full-time job at MLSE in a department that I sort of see myself starting in post-graduation, along with Kat and along with other friends that I have from Brock. I think it's super important to maintain professional relationships with the people around you in your year and the year under you and the year above you. So,
Caleb?
This is such a good question. I guess first I want to touch on Ty's point, reemphasize, so important. Like these 5 people in this chat here, we're all going to end up, even if we don't all end up in sport, the majority of us will, and we're all going to be good contacts on the road. So first of all, like going into university, like I tried my best to meet every single person I possibly could at Brock. Like I wanted to meet all 20,000 people, and yes, that's not going to happen, but like try and meet everyone you can, get a cell phone number, get an Instagram, and like Ty said, like maintain the relationship, stay in contact with these people. Don't do it in a fake manner. Like if you don't like the person, don't talk to them. But a lot of the people you'll realize, like a lot of people you'll meet are really, really good people. You can learn a lot of different things from these people. My relationship with Ty, completely different than my relationship with Alan, but both of them bring plenty of value to the relationship that we have for completely different reasons. So had I not joined the club, I wouldn't have met them. So do stuff that's going to have you meet people. Join intramurals, join a club. Don't do work at home. Like do work in market, do work in different parts of Brock. You'll talk to people naturally from that. So that's the first thing. I thought Ty made a really good point from that. Like the amount of times Alan and I spent time at school that we wouldn't have if we just did work at home. Like you develop relationships with people when you're around people. The second thing is, this is kind of like a weird thing to say. Don't make networking necessarily like every single part of your university experience. Like, enjoy your time and do other things and do fun things and kind of like enjoy your time in university, because it's a huge time of growth and you don't want to kind of be just worried about one thing the entire time. Do a lot of networking, meet a lot of people, but then also spend time doing things that you're going to enjoy. Whether, intramurals could be a source of networking in a way, but don't do it to network. Do it because you want to do it. And if you want to go out on a Saturday night, then go out on a Saturday night. If you want to watch the Ice Dogs on a Friday night, go and watch the Ice Dogs. Like do things that you want to do, because this is a time of huge growth for a lot of students. And you don't want to look back on this time and think that you kind of were just focused on things that, you know, don't necessarily matter in the long run. With that being said, focus on these networking events, but also completely contrary to what I just said is in the same sense, try and network as much as you can. Ty can attest to this, so can Alan. Like, we went to so many networking events. Like, they kind of get tiresome at the end because you go to, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 of them by the end of your 4 years. And, you know, you hear a lot of the same stuff. And it was ironic because two of the biggest contacts who ended up helping me with my internship process were people that I didn't meet at networking events. This past summer, I helped at a baseball tournament in my hometown. And through that, I got really close with Jack Armstrong, the guy who does the play-by-play for the Raptors. I didn't meet him at a networking event. I met him at a Little League baseball tournament in my hometown of Ancaster, Ontario, because I reached out to him to be a speaker at our banquet. So don't get stuck in the sense that you're only going to meet people at these networking events that you go to through Brock, because you know you can meet people anywhere. The second one was a guy named Barry Forth, who I worked at Hamilton Golf and Country Club in the summer. We held the Canadian Open. Wasserman obviously was part of the Canadian Open. I didn't actually know what Wasserman was at the time. I didn't really network during that week. And then a couple weeks later, during that Little League baseball tournament, Barry Forth was with his kids watching the baseball game. And then I chatted for an hour and a half about Wasserman, and I think he is a major reason why I ended up getting my internship there. So don't focus on only these networking events. There's always chances to meet people. There's always chances to build relationships. And it's just ironic that the two people who I think gave me the best chance at, you know, furthering my career were people that I didn't actually meet at networking events. They were just people who I met for volunteering in my community. So there's always chances to meet people. There's always chances to build connections, and don't kind of pigeonhole yourself into thinking that networking events are the only way to do that.
I find a lot of people rely on LinkedIn maybe a little bit too much. I think the emailing and the text messages and that stuff, I think is just the world we live in, is maybe too dependent. So I would say to students to try to, you know, go out for coffee dates, or, you know, 20, 30 minutes of an SPMA alumni or someone in the industry. Just that face-to-face connection can go, I think, a longer way than maybe just emailing. So I would just say that.
Piece of advice that I would say is, if you can provide any sort of value to the people you network with, it will really go a long way. Darren came and spoke at our event last January, and he was talking about how he wanted to promote his Bulldogs event in the coming, would have been end of February. And he was telling me like he wanted to get these speakers, and some of them like he wasn't sure of. So I just said, hey, if you want, I can try my best to get someone from Live Nation to go. So ended up getting the operations manager, Dave Ward, to go and speak. Ended up being a panelist, and ended up being a huge asset to his event. I was talking to Darren at an event that he was at with us, and I said, hey, I can try and help you with this. Ended up working out, and it made his event the better for it. And it's just, again, these small favors, these of value you can give to the people you network with, and they don't forget that. Most of these people will never forget things like that, especially from a student.
SPMA is really, really, really what you make of it. I don't mean to like chirp us, but like most people could get by these courses. Like, it's not rocket science. You understand sport, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to pass. I'm not a man of a exceedingly high IQ, and I was able to, you know, pass the courses. SPMA is all what you make of it. So if you're just going to go through the motions and pass the courses, you'll come out and you'll have nothing. But it's like 50% schooling and 50% what you do on the side. And so like Vince said, don't just send somebody a LinkedIn message. Send them a LinkedIn message and say, hey, let's grab a coffee. Or like Ty said, add value to these people. Or like what Alan does, like join a club. Or with Hope, doing like her internship was something that she really cared about, and she was getting involved even before the internship with the Tie Cats. Like, there are so many other things that you can do. Try and get as many business cards as you can. Get as many contacts on your phone. Like, SPMA is all what you make of it, and most people could get by, but the people who really excel are the people who are going to put the added effort on the side. I walked into my sister's room yesterday to ask her if she had any business cards. she's a nurse. She laughed at me. There's no like nursing, you just put it all into the schooling, right? Whereas for us, it's the schooling and there's a whole other factor to it. And it's really, if you want to succeed and be successful, you're going to have to put in that extra effort that goes past just the schooling and the education.
Putting in the extra effort and having that added value goes beyond. Even if you take the time to actually thank somebody, whether or not beforehand when you're going to meet for coffee, you already have a pre-written, handwritten thank you note or a little something to give them that they remember you by, something unique about your story or anything like that. For me, for instance, my family actually owns an apple orchard and we make hard cider, so I always bring like a can of hard cider with me. And they just remember me as a cider person. But if you have that unique little niche about you, if you come prepared with that something and you leave them with something, they're going to remember you more than just somebody who either reached out or linked on LinkedIn or sat down for a coffee date. If you leave them with a lasting impression of yourself, it definitely goes above and beyond.
Just don't burn any bridges. Because you never know, again, when that bridge kind of will be a benefit to you. The five of us now really coming out of university is trying to figure out what's next. What are we going to do? How, finding a job in the industry, getting your foot in the door. Networking is a huge part of that, right? Because you never know when a door may open. In a situation where I'm looking at Primetime, for example, I knew of Primetime very slightly, but I didn't know enough, but that's where I kind of leaned on Ty to really help me kind of get a better grasp of it, and really led me to kind of applying. I actually applied late. I was, I think, a couple of days late from the deadline, and you never know when someone's work can kind of help you get full consideration, even being late. Right? I've learned, don't burn any bridges. If you continually communicate with them, that'd be great. Even what we're facing today with COVID-19, shoot them a message saying, hope all is well, hope the family's safe and healthy.
What is your most memorable experience in the sport management program at Brock Hope?
Was probably the alumni day in my third year. I was part of the team that put it together, so it was part of the 3PO2 placement course. And it was memorable because I actually got the opportunity to moderate a panel that my now mentor was on, Erin Matheny. And she's actually one of the reasons that I came to the sport management program. I saw a picture of her with their arms crossed, and she had actually worked for the COC, so full circle. She was standing in front of the COC rings, and I was kind of like, damn, like she's badass. I want to be like her. She's one of the reasons that I applied to Brock. So it's a little surreal to be moderating a panel that she was on and asking questions. And we made a really great connection on that panel and afterwards. And it just evolved through the mentorship program Professor Kerwin puts on. She was actually one of the mentors, and I applied to be her mentee, and it just worked out perfectly. So that's probably one of the most memorable experiences for me, because through that connection that I made with her, I was able to actually obtain my internship with the COC. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity and for Erin as a person. She's amazing, and she's a great person to network with. So if you feel free, I'm going to say reach out to her, and I would be very surprised if she doesn't connect with you.
So Alan, what is your most memorable experience?
Program related, it would have been working with We Are Badgers. Unfortunately, it's kind of gone, lack of a better term. But I was fortunate to kind of work on the operations side during the Steel Wave and the Paint Meridian Red basketball games. They were tons of fun, and an opportunity and experience where I applied a lot of what I've learned through event management, through BSBA, through the various other experiences. And, as sport management students and as people in general, we enjoy sport, right? We love watching the games. We love being there. Whether it's, you're sitting with your friends, having a beer, or watching the basketball game, or you're at a playoff game, for example, and you're watching the Brock men's team, for example, the women's team. Being a part of that experience, and being a part of that team that really kind of presented those events was great. I guess that experience was probably my most memorable experience, because I got to really connect with various years of students from different programs as well. I got to be a part of the team that presented some of the bigger events in Brock varsity sports, and it was also a place where I got to meet great people, and those people I continue to talk to, I see every day, or I talk to every day. And yeah, that's probably the most memorable experience, but there are tons of experiences that I would put up there.
I would say my most memorable experience at Brock from that professional, academic, whatever you want to call it side, would be our networking event this year. Just because it kind of was a showcase for how much not only myself, but everyone within the club had grown. It was the first time we had sold out this event. There was zero hiccups, nothing at all went wrong. Getting a bunch of reviews on LinkedIn from our speakers that wrote long posts acknowledging and promoting the event after it had finished. I think that was sort of just a summary of our growth all as sport management professionals, students, as we head to our graduation. You could even say the one last year was as well, just because it was a stepping stone to the one this year, and there were 1,000 things going on at the same time. I know Caleb can talk about this because he was trying to find speakers in the parking lot, and that's something I won't forget because it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. In terms of the other side of it, the most memorable things that I will take away from Brock are just things where I was with my peers. Last year when we were all in the quantitative class, we all had to do this final paper assignment where none of us really had a great idea of what we were doing. So there was 5 days in a row where like the entire program of our year was just sitting on top of Hungry Badger trying to figure out this assignment all together, staying up late, helping each other with the math, doing all that stuff. It sounds like a boring answer, but it's just all of us together for a long period of time trying to figure out the same thing, kind of going through all this together. And I also won't forget last year doing Relay for Life with all of our friends and people within the SPA and everyone else that was in the event, just because we're all there together, we're all in support of some of our friends. Definitely Relay for Life was a great experience that I had that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
I could have so many, but if I had to choose one, I think that's a big thing, that whether you're going into your first year of SPMA or you're going into your fourth or whatever you're doing, like it's really important to just like Ty was saying, like he just listed off like 4 really, really big things. Just like get involved, like just off the top of my head, like what Ty said, like Relay for Life was so fun. We participated in motion ball, all the steel blade games, all the basketball games. Like when Alan picked our friend to shoot free throws and he missed the layup, the free throw, and the 3-pointer, but still somehow won money, BA in our event. And for me, I wasn't at the one in fourth year, but the one in third year, how we went from 15 tickets to a sold out place. You know, The Bachelor, the waking up at 4:30 a.m. for Wasserman this past semester. Like, you know, some funny stories that happen in downtown St. Catharines when you're hanging out with some friends on a Saturday night. Like there's just so many things that like you can look back on and think so fondly on. And I think it's really good that all of us don't have, you know, one certain thing necessarily. None of us, like I could name 100 things, and that just goes to show how tight-knit SPMA is as a community, because most of these things had to do with people in SPMA. And then B, it's really what you make of it. Like, again, like you can just sit in your room, do your assignments and kind of just go through the motions, or you can really kind of try and stand out and do things that are, you know, going to make your experience A, better, and B, more productive for you in the long run. It was a good time. It was a good 4 years. I don't know what else to say. Like it was, everything that we did was so memorable. And Relay for Life, like that's for cancer. We were doing it for our friend's mom, who unfortunately has stage 4 right now. But in such a, you know, dark theme, we were able to make such light of it and have such a good time. And I know even him, whose mom has the cancer, that's one of his top experiences too, because it was a huge growth moment for our group and our friend group. And watching Alan stuff down a pita and 98 coffees, because we had free coffees and Red Bulls and Rockstars at 4 a.m. was something that you can't, you know, find anywhere else other than Brock University. Go into the program hoping that you don't have one memorable idea, because if you only have one, then you've done something wrong. What about you, Vince? What would you say yours is?
I have a couple. Well, this podcast certainly, it's I think it's up there for sure. Like getting the opportunity to do this with all peers, especially in fourth year, to give industry advice and hear insight. This is this is one of the pinnacles, I have to say, especially when you do it with friends too. It makes it a little bit easier. When we did the Toronto Maple Leaf event at the really start, the MOC went to the department, the faculty, and they said, oh, we have this event, Toronto Maple Leafs training camp. Would you guys be able to run it? And then the faculty turned to council, and that was kind of the first event that council did to come back, so to speak. That was amazing just to be a part of, and even going to the event, like that was the images in my head will never go away, because just to hear Kyle Dubas speak and watching the Toronto Maple Leafs practice and talk about a sport experience, it was pretty amazing. In all of our experiences that we did different things, and what is most fascinating to me is when we start talking to one another and saying, hey, how was your experience? And then what was your experience like? And you actually learn from somebody else of what their experience was. So for me, that was really interesting. And I think SPMA is just it's a community. If you're a student, if you're a faculty, if you're an alumni, it's a community. And it was a great 4 years, and I wouldn't have changed anything.
Relay for Life was another experience that I'll never forget. It was a great time to kind of connect with everyone. And it showed, kind of what we've all said is how interconnected we are in the program. The guy right beside you, sitting right beside you, right in front of you, behind you, or to your left, you never know, right? And you build that connection, whether it's on a professional level or a personal level. The fact that we're all interconnected somehow, it really showed through Relay for Life. We were essentially supporting our buddy who, unfortunately, his mother does have CH4, but it really showed how we were able to come together and use and kind of utilize those personal relationships to really show support. And that's a memory that I'll never forget. And even though it was a long night and it was a long I think 12 hours, it's a 12 hours I'll never forget.
Add on to what we've all been talking about for the past however long. This program really is entirely what you make of it, right? When I came here in my first year, I knew zero people really. Vince, you and I are from the same hometown, went to different high school, and we didn't even know each other. So I came here knowing nobody, and I guess the running joke now is, and okay, Caleb, you make this joke a lot, that like people think I know every single person at SPMA, but I came here knowing absolutely no one. So totally is what you make of it. I came here, I got involved in a club, I did all these different things. I did Relay for Life, applied myself as much as I can, put myself in situations where maybe I wasn't the most comfortable, but those ended up being the most important and impactful experiences that I had at Brock. Don't just sit in class and expect to get what you want out of the sport management program. You need to go in and engage yourself in as many things as you can, whether it be SPMA Council, whether it be this podcast, whether it be joining the Relay for Life Club, whether it be doing other internships or starting your own thing. Who knows? You just need to get yourself as involved as possible and get yourself out there and network and, give yourself the best opportunity that you can to succeed after graduation. And along the way, you'll have those memorable experiences that you'll never forget, like we've been saying with our events and Relay for Life and everything else.
Final thoughts, I guess, from each and every one of you. Al, you want to start?
Oh, it was great to see everyone. It's unfortunate how the year had to end abruptly. In the long run, it is about health and being safe, and start to appreciate the work that the first line work people are doing to, with the situation right now with Caleb and his sister being a nurse. And I know a bunch of people who are doctors, they're really kind of taking this full throttle and, getting as much sleep as they can, even if that's 3 hours to go back to the hospital and deal with the situation. So a huge thank you to that. The podcast here was a great opportunity to kind of see everyone again, but also kind of give my perspective on the program, because from what you've probably heard from all four of us or five of us, with Hope not being present at the moment, we all have different experiences, different perspectives that we brought to the program. And, we kind of looked at it differently, but we all kind of shared similarities as well. What you make the university experience of. A close friend of mine, Josh Jerome, we all know of him in some shape or form. I actually met him during Applied Health Science orientation day. I didn't know anyone. Ended up sitting beside him. We kind of talked really quickly, and we realized that we were
from the same area. We were 20 minutes apart from each other, went to different schools and had different experiences, but someone that we continued to rely on each other throughout the 4 years, whether it's looking at each other's papers, working on group assignments. He provided me a lot of advice through his experiences and such like that. So do everything you can to kind of take every opportunity and kind of learn from it and grow from it and meet new people. And in Brock and going into university, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I still remember sitting in the orientation, looking at the SPMA section. I was like, who are these people? I had no idea who anyone was and such like that. And, you know, I would see Caleb and Ty around classes, around res. I think Caleb was actually in Village. I'd walk by his court every day on my way home, and he was just some random guy I walked by. But through the various opportunities I got to meet them, and, you know, they're friends that I see being friends for a long, long time. It's memories that you hold on for the rest of your life, right? Caleb and I decided to walk home from downtown Thorold, and I think it was like -10, -15. And I think I was so cold by the time I got into my place at the lofts, I didn't feel anything. Memories like that I'll hold on to for the rest of my life. I've really thoroughly enjoyed my university career and enjoyed meeting all of you guys, meeting everyone else who are listening. Look at every opportunity as if it's a step forward. Don't ever ignore an opportunity, because you never know, right? And always talk to everyone in the program, whether it's your professors, whether it's your peers, because they can help you out along the way.
Ty, final thoughts.
Oh gosh, how do I top that, Alan? Do what you can to give yourself the best opportunity to, you know, succeed. Not just the big things, but the little things as well. Like changing your routine, meeting as many people as you can, staying in contact with those people, trying to have as many ideas as you can, because at the end of the day, like, ideas are the lifeblood of the sport and entertainment industry. The more new ideas you can bring to the table, the more valuable that you'll be in every aspect of the industry. This podcast idea started out with him and I saying, like, hey, how cool would it be if we did a podcast where fourth years can kind of reflect on their time and provide advice and whatever else to incoming students, or to students that are younger than us, or to anyone else really in the sport industry. And it sort of evolved into this. The SPMA program really is what you make of it, and you have to give yourself the best opportunity outside of the program, really, by applying yourself to succeed and to do what you really want to do. Because no one's going to pick you out of a crowd of random sport management graduates and say, I want this person to do this. Because realistically, that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it did years ago, and maybe it does in other programs, but in our program, and mainly in the business side, you really have to give yourself the opportunities that you can to succeed. Alan, I know you've done a bunch, Caleb's done a bunch, Hope's done a bunch, Vince. Like, all of us here, I think, are good examples of people who have sort of achieved what we want to achieve by making the program what we can and getting the most that we can out of it. So Caleb, I'll let you talk for a little while.
You want to look back and be happy with how you spent your time. You don't want to regret anything, and I think that comes with a little bit of a dose of, you know, social life, a dose of school, a dose of networking, a dose of extracurriculars. I wouldn't focus on one thing. I would kind of put your efforts everywhere, because you're going to want to look back and have those fun experiences that you may not get out of sitting in a classroom. But in the same sense, you want to look back and know that you put, you know, the best work you could have into your academics, and that you left nothing on the table. So I had to kind of experience everything. You know, don't pigeonhole yourself into one thing. I just want to thank Vince and then the SPMA Council team for letting us come on here. It's ironic that there's 3 BSBA guys in here, and there was never, you know, any animosity or anything, but there's always a bit of a rivalry. It's kind of like the Habs and the Leafs doing a podcast together. So always working towards the same common goal. But at the end of the day, like, I think this shows that, you know, no matter what club you're with, or no matter how you spend your time, like, at the end of the day, like, getting out of university, us 3 are all really good buddies with Vince. And I think this has been able to kind of show that, you know, SPMA is that tight-knit family. So I know Ty and Alan feel the same, but just want to thank you guys and Vince especially for moderating, but the rest of the SPMA council team for letting us join and cause some havoc for an hour. And great experience, and you guys are all really great guys and good buddies of mine. So thanks for having us on.
To anyone watching this, whether you're younger, whether you're just getting into the program, whether you're in first, second, or third year, whatever. If you have any questions, please use all of us as a resource. We'll do what we can to help you as the best that we can. Whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's however you want to reach out to us, please do that.
Yeah, to anyone listening, if you're a high school student who found this podcast, or a student in third, second, or first year, or going into the program, reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Like Ty said, we're all pretty easygoing. We've all kind of experienced the ins and outs of the program, but also university life in general. And again, if you have any questions, whether it's what res did you live in, as simple as that kind of question, or how did you enjoy your classes, we're always open to kind of speaking on our experience and kind of giving the best advice possible.
Our thoughts and prayers to everyone who's been affected by COVID-19, and the frontline workers who have been absolutely amazing, and difficult time, but we'll get through it. And from us fourth years to you, it's not goodbye, but it's definitely see you soon.